Our story begins during a coup to Arcadia's empire after a long time of tyranny. The fight was won thanks to a single dragon knight who people called the Black Hero. 5 years later, on what used to be Arcadia's empire, now called the Kingdom of Atismata, a young boy is chasing a cat through the rooftops of a building. The wood cracks under him, and he falls inside of a girl's bathroom on top of a blonde girl. Trying to get away from trouble, the kid compliments the body of the girl. She quickly covers a tattoo on her belly with her towel, and the kid is taken to the dungeons. The next day, 2 girls take him to see someone they call the principal. He then realizes that he has fallen inside of the academy, a place where dragon knights are trained. The principal, knowing he doesn't have the guts to assault a girl on purpose, forgives him and asks him to be a teacher of the academy. Thanks to her, we know that our protagonist is Lux Arcadia, prince of the former empire. She explains that due to the coup, all of the male dragon knights have left, leaving the academy to be an only female school. The same blonde girl interrupts their talk. She refuses to have Lux working there and challenges him to a duel. If he lost, he'd be locked in the dungeons, but if he won, he could work there. The principal tells her not to be so confident, as Lux is known as the invincible weak, but she lets the girl decide. She tells her mates to inform the whole academy that the current princess and the former prince would duel. She turns at Lux and introduces herself as Lishart Atismata, princess of the new kingdom. After that, Lux goes to talk to his sister, Ari, who studies in the academy. Ari's roommate, Knock Leaflet, stands far away from him, saying that she heard that a boy would attack a girl given the first chance, thought that most of the girls their share. Ari expresses to Lux the fear of ending up alone if he was locked up, as every member of the royalty that survived the coup are considered criminals. Even so, she tells him she trusts him. Later, the fight takes place on a coliseum. Some dragon knights place a barrier and the show starts. Lux takes one of his swords and invokes his machine wyvern. Lisha invokes her divine dragon machine, Tiamat, and makes fun of the guy's machine as it's weaker than hers. The fight starts and soon Lisha establishes her dominance, breaking Lux's sword in one attack. Still, the boy tries to apologize and leave things in a tie. He dodges most of Lisha's attacks, making the girl lose her temper. Upset, Lisha uses the divine power of her machine, making Lux crash against the floor. In the crowd, Ari explains that Divine is a special ability only the owners of Divine Dragons possess. In Tiamat's case, it's the ability of controlling gravity. Lisha tries to end Lux but loses control over her own machine. At that moment, a monster attacks one of the Dragon Knights, dismissing the barrier. Ari identifies the monster as an abyss, a beast that should dwell in what she refers as the ruins. The students try to escape the monster, and the principal orders the triad to evacuate the students to the academy. Ari and Noct watch Lux protect Lisha from the beast. The former prince asks for the princess to wait at the arena. He'll give her the signal to shoot at the abyss. When he places his sword above his head, Lisha obeys and aims at the monster. In the air, Lux is dodging the monster's attacks but gets distracted by one of the triads telling him to hang on for backup. The monster passes Lux and storms in Lisha's direction. The boy gets behind it and raises his sword, aiming to attack him, making the monster turn to defend itself. Then Lisha attacks him, defeating the monster. Later, Lisha is reflecting upon the fight and covers the mark on her abdomen with her hand, recognizing Lux as the only man that ever tried to help her. Lux lays in bed recovering. He's having a nightmare about a memory. He's in a garden talking to someone who asks if Lux's wyvern would cooperate with his Bahamut. Lux wakes up shaken by the dream. His torso is covered in bandages. He turns to look at his 2 swords. One of them looks like the one the stranger had in his dream. He doesn't have much time to think as Lisha enters the room carrying a bucket of water. The guy is surprised by the presence of the girl. She explains that she is only there because he protected her, but Lux says he didn't do much. The girl asks if everyone in the old empire was like him. He explains that he couldn't know as he was forced to quit the court when he was young. Lisha changes the subject, thanking him for saving everybody, and tells him she accepts him inside the academy. She also confesses that she challenged him because of what he saw in the bathroom. She proceeds to lift her skirt, showing that the mark of her abdomen is the mark of the old empire, and asks Lux not to tell anyone. The boy agrees and Lisha walks out the room. Already on the doorframe, the girl asks him why he didn't use the black sword he had, but quickly tells him that everyone has secrets, not forcing him to talk. She tells Lux that from tomorrow he'll be received at the school as a cadet for Royal Knight and leaves. None of them realize that a girl with light blue hair is eavesdropping on their conversation. The next day at class, Lux goes to take a seat when he comes across a girl he recognizes as his childhood friend Fluffy and decides to sit with her. This makes Lisha a little jealous. Once the class starts, Lux asks Fluffy if they can share her textbook, but the girl only accepts to share if Lux calls her by her childhood nickname. Ashamed, he does, and they share. During recess, all of the girls in the classroom get to know that Lux used to do maintenance. Thrilled, they ask for his services. Lisha goes to Lux and asks him if he could be her personal assistant, with the excuse of already seeing her. Fluffy stands up and accuses her of making Lux uncomfortable. Lisha tries to make her go, giving her a donut. The girl eats it and asks her to leave Lux alone. In the middle of that conflict, the light blue-haired girl approaches Lisha. She calls her Chrolsifer and tries to dismiss her. Chrolsifer explains that Lux was requested by the principal, so she takes him with her. Once out of the academy, Lux thanks her for helping him escape. Chrolsifer looks at him and asks if he knows about the Black Hero. She says that his identity is still a mystery and asks Lux to find him for her. Back in his room, he has another dream with the same stranger. He calls him Fugel. Fugel says that the only way is to kill everyone because of some human experimentation. The black sword rests on a table in front of Lux. He looks back at Fugel and says he wants to have a lower number of victims. Lux wakes up in bed. He stretches and realizes that Fluffy sleeps next to him. He freaks out, not understanding what she's doing there. She thinks it's not a big deal as it's her room. One of the girls enters to wake up Philu. She apologizes for interrupting and leaves to tell the rest of the girls. Lux is having breakfast with Aria Nokudo. He explains to her that Philu is his roommate as there aren't any more rooms available. Even her sister, the principal, has approved they share the room. Aria stands up to leave, but Lux explains that he wanted to eat with her. She tells him that if they stay together, they'll want to be together more. She asks him to be discreet with their chats, and he nods. Lux enters the workshop for a job request and finds Lisha resting. The girl wakes up when she hears him and shows him that she repaired his wyvern. She asks him to be part of the Knights of the school, a guarding group made by the best students of the academy. Lux hesitates but accepts. She asks him to accompany her to the town. They are entering a fancy restaurant when Lisha notices she forgot her wallet. They end up eating some pastries that Lux bought. Lisha explains that she has been feeling weird lately and that she needs to rest. Lux takes Lisha to a bell tower. They enjoy the view when he compliments Lisha for her ability to repair machines and calls her a working queen. She asks Lux to explain to her what a good queen is and explains that during the coup she was captured as a hostage to negotiate with her father, but no negotiation happened and she was abandoned. With time, she decided to become a member of the Empire to survive. She feels this decision makes her unworthy of the queen title, but yet after her father died, she was crowned as queen and had to hide her mark from the rest of the world. Later at night, Lux remembers a traumatic event where his brother, Fugel, killed more people than he asked. Lost in his own madness, Fugel explains that they would have killed him if he didn't act before. He calls Lux weak and suddenly he's awakened by the sound of bells. In the workshop, the teacher explains to the girls that an abyss appeared in the southwest ruins. They would be the support team to the Dragon Knights of the Kingdom. Lux arrives and asks Aerie what is going on. Lisha says goodbye and he asks her to take care. Chrolsifer explains to him that as he isn't part of the Knights yet, he'll have to stay behind. The girls find the abyss, a giant jelly monster. Before Lisha could attack it, she listens to a flute sound and the monster explodes. In the workshop, Lux finds Philu. The girl explains that she didn't go because she heard the flute. A mysterious voice asks for the blob to hatch and a group of gargoyles comes out of it. A male dragon knight shows before Lisha. She asks if he's the captain sent by the royal capital. He explains that he's Regreed Forest and that he serves only to the Arcadia Empire. With a flute, he commands the gargoyles to attack the girls. Nock comes back to inform the situation. Aerie asks Lux what is he gonna do, as with his machine he can't do anything. He eases her, saying that he won't be alone. Lisha fights restlessly, but her team is beaten up and they ask her to start the withdrawal. She accepts but says she'll stay to fight against the captain. Gregory commands the gargoyles to attack Lisha. She dodges them but gets attacked from the back by the man. An army of male dragon knights rises in front of the girls. Lux asks through the communicator for Lisha to hang on, but the girl feels defeated. The captain rips Lisha's clothing, saying that he's the one that marked her, so she should bow to him. She remembers the day she was marked with fire and throws her sword at the man. Before he could hurt her more, Lux appears in between them and tells her that he wants her to become a good princess for the kingdom. After losing one of the arms of his machine, Lux dismisses the wyvern and grabs his black sword, invoking Bahamut, the divine black dragon. He quickly defeats everybody and kills the captain that recognizes him as a traitor. Some days later, Lux is taken to the main hall by Aerie as the principal requested his presence. When they arrived, all of the girls welcomed him for a celebration. All of them contributed to the feast for him, a thankful gesture for his actions. Although most of the girls are excited, some of the older girls think they are being too soft on Lux. The principal explains to Lux that the girls made too many requests for his services, so she thought of making a competition. She shows the girls a red sheet of paper and says that's a request that'll make the girl who has it Lux's priority for a week. She gives him the paper, explaining that if he didn't give it to anyone until the time is up, he'll be free from the girls. The game starts and Lux runs away as fast as he can. He hides in the workshop where he finds Lisha. She confronts him about the Black Hero. They walk in front of Tiamat and she asks him about Bahamut's abilities. He starts to tell her when the robot traps him. The only thing Lisha wanted was the red formulary. He tells her he'll give it to him if she puts him down. As soon as his feet touch the floor, he runs away. He's able to avoid the girls and hides in a room. He thinks he's safe, but he hears the girls coming in. He hides behind some boxes and soon realizes that they are inside of a changing room. Crawlsafer reaches for the books that are in front of Lux and finds him. She tells the girls that she'll skip today's training and they should go. Tricking him, she's able to get the formulary seconds before the time is up. She asks him to be her boyfriend for that week as her request. At night, the principal requests the former prince and princess to go to her office. On their way there, Eri reprehends her brother, saying that he shouldn't forget his place. When they arrive, the principal shows them Rigrid's flute. She explains her suspicions of it being found deep in the ruins. She gives them the mission to confirm if the flute is a key before the Order of Knights begins their investigation. Lux walks Eri to her room and she asks him to be careful around Crawlsafer as she feels the girl hides something, aside from being a transferred student from another country. During breakfast, Crawlsafer explains that she asked him to be her boyfriend because when she was sent to Atismadak, she was ordered to find a husband, as in some days a butler of her family would come to check on her marriage status. She blackmails Lux, saying that if he ruined her plan, she'll tell everyone how she got the red formulary. At night, Lisha and the girls find Crawlsafer and Lux doing homework. The clearly jealous girl tries to get Crawlsafer jealous by saying that she and Lux have already held hands. Unimpressed, Lux asks if she knows what kiss is, and the girl explains her naive knowledge of the field. Raising the bet, Fi tells she has already kissed Lux, but he covers her mouth before she could say more. Crawlsafer sends Lux to bed as the next day they have a date and Lisha gets even more jealous. Lux and Crawlsafer walk away from the academy holding arms to show off. Lisha and Fi decide to follow the disguise. After a long walk and shopping spree, the two fake lovers decide to eat something. On their way to a restaurant, they are ambushed by survivors of the Empire army. Crawlsafer asks Lux to take care of the two soldiers in front of them to give her time to invoke her dragon machine, Fafnir. She does it right in time to protect Lux from the dragons above them. Using the prediction ability of her dragon, the girl is able to take down the 3 dragons in front of her in a matter of seconds. Lisha and Fi approach Lux as they try to protect him, although they deny be following them. Fi points at one of the guys escaping. He's stopped by a black-haired woman that Crawlsafer calls Alterize the butler. The 5 of them go to have dinner and Crawlsafer introduces Lux as her boyfriend. Alterize isn't able to say anything before being interrupted by Balzarai Kreutzer, one of the 4 great nobles and the man chosen by Crawlsafer's parents to marry her. She rejects him as she now has a boyfriend, but the man decides to challenge Lux to a duel for Crawlsafer's hand. The girl proposes a team duel, Alterize and Balzarai against Lux and herself. The man accepts and leaves, announcing that the duel would be in 3 days. Balzarai shares a cup of wine with a man hiding behind a cloak. He explains that the flute the principal has is in fact a key for the depths of the ruins, and they seem to make a deal. Back in class, Crawlsafer and Lux talk about the duel when Lisha overhears that they aren't really dating. She feels relieved and tells Lux she'll fix and add lots of things to his dragon for him to win. Crawlsafer leaves saying she has things to do, and Lisha notices Lux is very tired. On his way to a job, Lux is intercepted by Tilfar, one of the girls, who takes him to a room where he finds Fi and Lisha dressed as maids. The 3 girls figure that to make him happy and have a rest, they'll serve him for the rest of the day. They prepared food, and Lisha tells him that as his maid, he can ask for indecent things, but Lux tells her that he wouldn't do such thing. In the conference room of the castle, the 4 great nobles have a reunion. One of them explains that there is one abyss per room that holds a paranormal power, and that Poseidon, the Ragnarok that fossilized them, is now trying to awaken them. Balzarai's father proposes to keep investigating the ruins to find the powerful weapon that resides there. For that task, he proposes his son. That night, the principal gathers the knights to explain to them that the next day they'll be investigating the ruins, but they should get to the depths of the ruins using the flute as a key. She gives Lux the flute to guard it. He notices Crawlsafer laying on a wall, being part of the meeting. Once out, he reaches to her to ask what was she doing there. She explains that she'll be a part of the investigation despite being a transferred student. He asks for the real reason behind it, and she simply says that it's an opportunity to fulfill her task. Wondering about the real motives of the girl, Lux goes to take a relaxing bath. Once in the water, he notices Faye next to him. He tries to leave the room, but Faye says it's fine, as she wouldn't get in the bathtub with a boy she didn't like. Lux turns around ashamed, but the girl starts to fall asleep, forcing the boy to hold her so as not to let her drown. He notices that a scar on the girl's back has disappeared. This calls his attention, but he's distracted when the girl asks him to be careful in the ruins, as she wouldn't go. The next day in the workshop, the teacher tells the girl they modified a spot on the ruins to investigate them. She tells Balzarai to enter and explain. He tells the girls and Lux that he volunteered to help with the investigation, but he wouldn't interfere with anything. Lisha protests at his presence, but he explains that as he came third in the capital tournament and his future fiancé was involved, he wanted to protect the girls. Once in the ruins, Krulcifer gets ahead of the rest and Noct warns Lisha that she detected an abyss. From the mist appears a monster with the form of a dragon, Diablos, a powerful and vile creature. The Diablos storms in Nokuto's direction, but is intercepted by Lux. The girls start the attack, but the creature is too fast for them. The only one able to hit it is Krulcifer. Balzeride laughs at the girls' fear and is able to shoot at it. He asks Lux if he'd like to compete with him, to see who kills the creature first. If he won, Balzeride would abandon their duel. Krulcifer decides to kill the creature using her dragon's ability, but her dragon malfunctions, allowing the creature to attack. Before the fire attack could reach her, Lux takes her out of the way. Balzeride throws an axe at the abyss, hitting it on the chest. The impact makes the monster explode and Lisha orders her team to protect themselves. Lux notices Krulcifer is losing control over her dragon when the ruins start to shine. He protects her from the impact. Lux remembers once he was training with Fugal and he lost control trying a new technique. He wakes up in the grass and Krulcifer informs him that they are probably inside of the ruins. She tells him that they should head for the altar in the center of the ruins as they could probably meet up with the rest of the team there. As they walk, Krulcifer stumbles, tired of the fight. Lux tells her to take a rest, but she's determined to get there as she says is her only chance. Understanding the girl, he offers to hold her as they walk. They enter the altar room and Lux asks her why she's looking for the Black Hero. She explains that there is a limit to using the dragons, but he doesn't seem to have one. Once in front of the altar, Lux takes out the flute, but the altar starts to shine, running the opening command. Krulcifer, who had run to the altar, explains to Lux that she's the last survivor of the ruins, the key everyone was looking for. The altar room starts to crumble and Lux takes the girl inside the door that opened. The stones cover the entrance, leaving them trapped. Krulcifer starts to walk down the tunnel behind them. The walls of the place are full of capsules and she tells them she was found in one of them during the excavations of the ruins in Ymir. As everyone was wary in front of her, she learned she was adopted and started to train hard to be able to get a dragon, only longing for love, but she got one only because her siblings weren't able to manage it. She confesses to being afraid of the excavations. She doesn't want to know she's the only one of her kind. Lux holds her hands and promises her that they'll find something, trying to reassure her. The girl laughs and tells him she was lying and asks him why he's so kind. He explains that that is his destiny. Him, Eri, and their mother were expelled from the court by his grandfather, an educator for the imperial family. He thought he looked for the well-being of the empire, but when his mother died in a crash and no one came to their help, he realized that it wasn't like that. Krulcifer asks if he doesn't resent them, but he explains that after receiving Philuffy's help, he didn't want to hate the people. Rather, he wanted to make a place where people could live without hate. She asks him if he became the prince of the new kingdom, he would help her. But suddenly, the place starts to shake. Lisha is drilling the rocks covering the entrance, rescuing them. Back at the academy, Eri prepares a herb tea that Krulcifer sent for her brother. She asks what they found at the ruins and he lies to her, not sharing Krulcifer's secret. Lux drinks the tea and falls asleep, not noticing his sister drug him as Krulcifer requests. That night, Krulcifer attends the duel alone. Before Alterize could summon her dragon, Balzeride knocks her down. They start the fight and soon Krulcifer is defeated. She tells Balzeride that she's aware of his presence involved in the attack she and Lux suffered at the town and the investigation of the ruins being speeded up. He confesses that everything was just to have her as the key, a tool he could use, a woman that would now before him. He's unable to keep his speech as Lux appears, attacking him with Bahamut. Ignoring Krulcifer's beggings for him not to get involved, Lux attacks unsuccessfully to check his theory. He was right. Balzeride's dragon, Azidahaka, has the ability to steal other machines' abilities. That's how he was able to block him and defeat the Diablos. He had been stealing Fafnir's ability. Being discovered, Balzeride attacks Krulcifer, forcing Lux to protect her and allowing Balzeride to touch Lux, stealing Bahamut's ability. Lux flies away, but thanks to his ability, Balzeride is too fast. Krulcifer doesn't understand why he keeps fighting for her. Eri tells her through the intercom that it is her brother's nature, revealing that she and Noct are watching the fight. As they fight, Balzeride tells Lux that he'll fight against the Ragnarok, and to do so he needs new armors and weapons from the ruins. That's why he needs Krulcifer. He notices that Lux is losing control over Bahamut and Krulcifer asks for him to stop. Driven by the guilt of using Lux, she begs for him to stop fighting. Honoring the request that united them as a couple, Lux says he'll fight until the end for his girlfriend and uses the last straw of control he had over Bahamut, making it go mad and defeating Balzeride, using the same move from his memories. Some days later, they meet up with Alterize in a restaurant. She makes their compromise official and leaves despite Lux's complaints. Crawlsafer tells him that he can't complain as in the battle he said he was her boyfriend. She makes him sit next to him and tells him that she loves his violent nature. She leans and kisses him twice. As she gets away from him, she says that he could get more of that if he married her. Before she could kiss him again, Lisha, who was watching from the outside with Tilfar, interrupts them, separating the lovers. At night, Lux, disguised as a woman, patrols the school's gardens. He bumps into the teacher, who recognizes her as the new student. She warns Lux that there's a stalker on the loose. The boy gets upset because no one seems to recognize him, even with Bahamut on his belt. In a flashback, Chalice, Tilfar's guard partner, explains to Lux about the stalker. She explains that thanks to the Ragnarok's existence in the country, it is a normal problem to have. She informs Lux that the daughter of one of the 4 great nobles is a third-year student of the academy. She could fight the Ragnarok. The only problem with her is that she despises men. Chalice asks Lux to help her patrol the school. He accepts, and the girls dress him up as one of them to use him as bait. Sitting on a bench, Lux hears talking from behind the bushes. He leans to look and finds a blonde girl talking to a black cat. Distracted by her, he doesn't notice a man behind him until a dagger touches his neck. He screams and the blonde girl interrupts, saving him. The stalker drops a smoke bomb and runs away, not before throwing the dagger at them. Lux covers the girl with his body, and luckily he only gets a scratch. The blonde girl takes him to the infirmary to heal him. She asks Lux to take his shirt off, and afraid of being discovered, he asks if she can heal it from the back. Once the wound is healed, Lux asks the girl why she was talking with a cat. Nervous, she asks for him to forget what he saw. The next day, Lux remembers that he introduced himself as Luno, and the girl is Celestia Raudris, the same girl that despises men. He's so worried he doesn't notice Lisha until she yells in his ear. She asks if he's tired, but is interrupted by Crawlsafer sitting on the other side of the bench. Both girls grab one arm of the boy and start to fight for his attention. Later that night, Balzaride is visited by the strange man he met before. He apologizes for losing to Lux, but the man doesn't talk. He touches Balzaride's chest, and roots start to grow from his insides, presumably killing him. Then, the stranger plays a flute like the one the captain had, and the gargoyles surround the jail. Lux is in his room thinking about Celestia and the Ragnarok when Tilfar bangs on his door. The girl takes him to the principal's office where Celestia and Lisha argue. He enters and Celestia introduces herself. She thanks Lux for protecting the school, but asks him to leave. Before being kicked out, Lux asks Celestia to let him help on the suppression of the Ragnarok, but the girl explains to him that the affairs of the kingdom are none of his business. In consequence, Lux tells her that he won't leave the academy if she fights alone. The principal interrupts and says that Celestia should decide Lux's destiny with a duel. She organizes a duel in 3 days on the base of the Knights organization. The girl accepts and leaves. Celestia is in her room when Sanya, one of her mates, knocks on the door and from the outside thanks the girl for trying to kick Lux out. The next day, the girls and Lux go to an island to train under Celestia's guide. At night, they are tired and beaten up. Lux compliments Celestia's strength, and the girls explain that although she's the strongest, she always looks tormented. Before going to sleep, Lux tries to give Chalice her clothes back, but the girl gives them to him. He tries to reject them when he's called to Celestia's chambers. When he enters, he finds her laying on her belly. Not knowing what to do, and as the girl isn't looking at him, Lux fakes to be Luno. When Celestia stands up to get changed, Lux is already dressed as Luno. The girl gets excited and asks for him to stay. Lux tells her that he can't, so Celestia asks him to spend their recess together. When he says no again, the girl gets sad, thinking that Luno hates her. Feeling guilty, Lux accepts to spend the recess together, and Celestia gets happy. The boy tries to leave the room, but Celestia gives him Bahamut's sword, thinking it's Luno's. Already outside, Lux is intercepted by Sanya. The girl gets closer to him, asking who she is, sword in hand. Crawlsafer intercedes, helping Lux to avoid the girl. She warns him, saying that she seems to be the one that is trying to get him expelled. Lux wakes up in the middle of the night to find looking through the mirror, dressed only in a baby doll. The girl sits down in the bed with him and asks if he wants a hug. Lux remembers the time when they were kids and the girl would offer the same thing. He politely declines the hug, saying that he's no longer a kid. The girl asks if he has changed. She doesn't think that he has, therefore hugging would be the same. She hugs him and promises that if he loses to Celestia, she would fight for him to stay. The next day, Celestia takes Luno to the island town. They enter a swimsuit shop and Lux starts to worry. The boy faked to be sick and they leave the shop. Celestia apologizes for being such a bad company and says that her father would be disappointed even if she is the captain of the Knights. Luno reassures the girl, saying that it's really nice to be around her. The girl hugged her, happy of Luno's kind words. The girls sit down for a picnic and Celestia falls asleep. She wakes up after some minutes and Luno asks her to please keep going as it's their free time. The girl says that strong people can endure being alone and tired. Luna laughs, remembering when Celestia talked to the cat. She tries to make her new friend forget about it and accidentally explains that she talked to the cat because she would be always alone back at the capital. Celestia gives up and confesses that she doesn't really hate men. Back in Adistama's castle, a soldier informs a woman sitting in the throne that the empty shell of the Ragnarok was found, but not the body. Celestia and Sania are changing for a swimming class. Sania is complaining about Lux's presence when Celestia tells her that she doesn't hate men, she actually likes them. But in her position, she can't afford trusting a man. At the beach, the girls say hi to Lux. He gets ashamed and covers his eyes. The girls explain that those are just swimsuits and not lingerie, therefore he should act ashamed. Fi splashes him with cold water, making him run away and bump into Lisha. The girl is trying to cover her mark with a skirt, but Lux tells her not to worry as she looks very pretty. Lisha gets ashamed and calls him a pervert. The principal, Relai, comes accompanied by Eri and asks for the kids to stop fighting. Eri seems to have a complex with the size of her chest. Celestia arrives asking Riley if the trip was just a pretext to have some school camp. Riley points out the cute swimsuit Celestia is wearing and the girl wonders where Luna is, as she was the one that picked it. The girls take Lux apart to offer him a swimsuit. As he runs away from the girls, he bumps into Celestia, making her fall. They have a brief encounter, and Celestia leaves with Sania. Lux remembers how Celestia told Luno she should apologize to Lux. She learned to fight from Wade Roadbelt, Lux's grandfather. She explains that Wade's death is her fault, and the least she could do is to keep Lux safe. Therefore, she can't let him win, let alone fight against the Ragnarok. That night, at the highest point of the island, at a church, the Stalker and Belzeride's ally meet. The next day, the duel takes place. Celestia invokes her dragon, Lindworm, and Lux invokes his normal wyvern. Noct asks Eri why Lux isn't using Bahamut. She explains that some members from the knights that are watching the fight don't know about him. He wants to keep it a secret as much as he can. A little far away from there, Tilfar and Chalice find the Stalker. They reveal they already know that it's actually a spy of the Heiberg Republic. They accuse her of making up the Stalker story to blame Lux and call her Sania. Caught, Sania takes her mask off and tells the girls that her mission is killing everybody and destroying the new kingdom. She invokes her dragon and the sound of the flute transforms it. Meanwhile, Lux and Celestia keep fighting. Lux is about to lose the control on his wyvern when from the ground a squid monster raises. The monster hits Celestia, taking her down. Lisha tells the girls to leave and Eri looks for Fluffy, who disappeared. Inside of the woods, Fluffy runs holding the shoulder. She finds Raleigh, who promises that no one's gonna take her away again. Lux reaches for Celestia on the ground. He makes sure she's okay and explains that the monster is the Ragnarok. Still hurt, the girl goes to fight it alone despite Lux's presence. She uses the teleporting ability of Lindworm to get to the head of the squid and attack it, killing the monster. Lux holds her as she's debilitated and Sania appears before them. Lux notices the stranger on the floor and recognizes him as his brother. Feudal plays his flute and the monster comes back to life. Sanova storms at Celestia, but Lux gets in the middle protecting the girl. Trying to get a reaction, Sania tells Lux that his grandfather was murdered by Celestia, but the boy remains undaunted. They are shot by Sania as the monster's inky mist covers everything. On the floor, Lux wakes Celestia up. The girl apologizes for not telling him about his grandfather. She explains that when she was still young, she asked Wade about the corruption of the Empire. He had to tell the old Empire about it and was locked up to die. All of his family expulsed to the court too. Before he left, he told her that she wasn't wrong. Since then, she wanted to change everything in the kingdom, but failed. Lux tells her that he doesn't hate her. He takes his sword out and apologizes for not telling her earlier. He summons Bahamut and promises to protect her. Lux storms at the Ragnarok, hurting Sania in the process and proceeds to cut each one of the squid's tentacles, mixing Bahamut's speed, power, and a technique he invented. As he deals with the monster, Celestia confronts Sania, but incapable of hurting her friend, she lets her go. Lux kills the monster that expels a white little ball. Sania catches it and takes Feudal with her. The stranger reveals not to be Feudal and explains her name is Haze. She promises to resurrect the nightmare from 5 years ago, and the two girls escape through the smoke. Back in the base of the Knights, Lux heals Celestia's wounds. The girl explains that she's still upset about the Luna thing. Lux says he'll do anything for her to forgive him. She tells Lux that he can stay at the academy under the condition of teaching her how to talk and deal with boys. He accepts and tells her just to be herself, as most men would find her cute. That night, Lux contemplates the church through the window and a fragment of memory assaults him, showing him bodies displayed on examined tables. Suddenly, a ruin with a whale shape rises from the ocean. The students gather to watch it, and Raleigh tells them the real motives of the camp. Through a flashback, we see how Fi and Lux became friends as the young prince was with Feudal and Regreed, who broke a statue. The kids blame the broken piece of Fi, and before she could get punished, Lux takes the blame. The girl thanks Lux, giving him a cookie, and they become friends. Back in the present, Lux goes to check up on Fi, who tells her that she'll participate in the ruins investigation. He asks her not to push herself when Lisha appears, looking for the boy. She shows him the upgrade she made to Bahamut for him to use the overlimit ability, overleading the robot. She warns him not to try it yet or he could die. The investigation squad gathers below the ruins. Riley explains that this time she and Eri would participate. As Eri explains the way to get inside, Lux asks Fi to tell him right away if she doesn't feel well. Eri asks her brother to equally protect her. Up in the mouth of the whale, the group waits for the sunlight to open the path. Once inside of the ruins, Eri explains that they are in the first of 15 underground levels. They start to move with Noct checking for an abyss near them and reach a destroyed part of the ruins. It seems that the machines used to maintain the forest inside the ruin have been destroyed. Riley decides to separate in groups. The first group, integrated by Krulsifer, Lisha, and Chalice, would go to the 4th floor. The second group, integrated by Tilfar, Riki, and Faye, would go to the 5th floor. Lux would cover the 6th floor and Celestia the 3rd one alone. Seeing Celestia so upset by going alone, Lux asks her to team up with him and she accepts. As they walk and chat, Noct warns Lux of something ahead of them, under some rumbles. He reaches the place and lifts the stone, finding a girl with long turquoise hair. Eri calls Krulsifer, thinking she'll know something as she has been inside ruins before. The girl looks at the stranger and asks the girls to leave as she wouldn't be able to protect them if the fight started. They obey and Krulsifer kneels to touch the little girl. She wakes up and reveals to be Krulshi, the supervisor of those ruins. She calls Krulsifer administrator and explains that she's an automata. Krulsifer asks her what does she know about the past civilization. Krulshi explains that due to an accident, her memory was temporarily disconnected and begs for them not to abandon her. The little girl tells them that once she can connect to the primary system, she will be able to regain her memories. They ask her how they can do that, and she explains that once she registers her as the administrator, Krulsifer can call the recovery command. They gather the rest of the team and explain what Krulshi is to them. Lux notices Fi holding on a wall but gets interrupted by Krulsifer before he could reach her. She expresses her worries about the existence of a creator above her as an administrator. Lux reaches for Fi to help her and they keep investigating. Back in the castle, the queen and 3 of the 4 nobles discuss how to proceed with the rebellion they suffered from Regreed. One of them proposes the students of the academy to participate and another expresses his desire of Lux working for them. Inside the ruins, Lux, Fi, Relay, and Tilfar reach the production area. The wall is full of abyss eggs. Fi starts to have a terrible headache as she hears Hayes' flute. Lux is leaving Fi on the floor when he's attacked by a Diablos. The beast manages to destroy the wyvern's right arm and runs away. Amy explains to the team that when the ruins get in alert mode, 3 abyss are released. Lux asks for Riley to stop the investigation, but she refuses. Fi gets on her dragon and goes to catch the abyss, saying that the people of the island will be in danger. Lux gets on Bahamut and asks Tilfar to take care of Riley. They exit the ruins and they get attacked by the Diablos. Fi is tossed on the church and Lux is assaulted by the memories again. He kills the Diablos and goes to look for her. The impact broke the floor, revealing a secret basement. Lux stumbles inside the place, assaulted by the memories of the human experimentation that took place there. He finds Fi on a corner, burning due to the fever. She warns him about the abyss being close and starts to strangle him against the wall. As she strangles Lux, Fi remembers the promise he made to her of making a better country for her and her family, the memory of their first kiss. She comes back to her senses for a moment before fainting and Hayes reveals her presence. Inside the ruins, the girls have managed to kill the other Diablos and reach the entrance to the depths. Era tells the other girls that Krulshi says a key is needed to open the gate and Krulsifer remains silent. Lux points his sword at Hayes and the girl explains that if she dies, Fi comes with her, as inside of her there's a Ragnarok seed. The living creature implanted with the seed is devoured from the inside by worms and transformed into an abyss. The abyss can't go against the Ragnarok's orders. Fi's headaches and fevers come from refusing the orders. She was given the order of murdering Lux. If she keeps refusing, she'll suffer the worst pains and eventually die. Lux lowers his sword and Hayes offers him a deal. If he opens the depths for her, she'll give the order to the Ragnarok of saving Fi. She gives him 2 days to do it. Back in the camp, Fi wakes up hungry and not remembering what happened. As Lux feeds her, he can notice one of her eyes has changed. When they are done, Lux leaves the room. Upset of not knowing how to help her friend, Riley approaches behind him and they leave to talk in private. Lux reveals that the last time Fi and him met, he rescued her from the island experiments. Riley confirms it, but she explains that when he found her, Fi was already killed and brought back to life as an abyss's incubator. She tells Lux that if they reach the depths, they might find a way to save Fi. As he gets ready on Bahamut, Lux remembers the rainy day Fi accompanied him to visit his mother's grave. She held him, allowing Lux to break for a moment. He snaps out of his memories thanks to Lisha's screams. The girl tells him that she'll ask the principal permission to prepare the over-limit command and leaves the siblings alone. Eri is telling Lux how worried about that new ability she is when Feudal speaks through Lux's intercom. Lux asks him to tell him what he knows, and the older man tells him that there's only one way of saving Fi: to destroy the flute and kill the Ragnarok master of the seed. Lux goes to check on Fi, who's standing in front of the window. He reaches for the girl to take her back to bed, and the girl tells him that she knows about the abyss within her and says that it's all for her to die now, as Lux and Relief are no longer lonely. Lux asks for her to stay alive. He owes his strength to her and wants to keep her in his life. She accepts, saying she'll wait for him. Back in the ruins, the girls discuss how to open the door. Lux asks Chronicle what should they do, but the girl simply walks towards the door and places her hand on it. She explains to the rest it only was a coincidence, as when she found Chronicle, she was confirmed to be her master. They enter the room and Chronicle regains her memories. She explains that her mission is to kill all of them, as the people who betrayed her masters. Before any battle can take place, Hayes enters the room with a Fi completely corrupted. She gives the order to the girl to kill them, and she summons her dragon. The group does the same and prepare themselves to fight. Chronicle summons 3 dragon armors without a driver and attacks Lux. He notices that the armors are using the over limit. Celestia storms in Faye's direction, but is taken down by the girl from a single punch. She uses her dragon's ability and makes the other dragon's abilities useless. She takes cables out of her dragon, trapping Chronicle and Lisha, making them crash against each other. With the same white ball she took from the Ragnarok, Hayes seems to take power from the altar. Feudal approaches her as she hears Eri play the flute they had. Faye wakes up and attacks Hayes before she can give her an order. The group surrounds Hayes, but the girl summons a new Ragnarok. The beast breaks inside the room and the girls attack it. Before they could celebrate, the monster attacks them with its roots, and Hayes tells them that it can regenerate itself. Every attack makes it more powerful. Lux protects Lisha from the roots and asks for her to let him use the over limit. Seeing that it might be their only chance, the girl accepts and asks him to hang on while she sends him the code. Lux fights against the monster until he gets trapped by the roots. Hayes asks for him to kill his friends and join her in the destruction of the kingdom. Faye tells her to shut up and not go underestimate Lux. Thanks to her words and Lisha's confirmation, Lux gathers the strength to use the over limit, releasing Bahamut's true form. He storms at the Ragnarok, killing it and sinking the ruins in the process. Feudal calls Hayes Your Majesty and tells her it is time to leave, as she couldn't even aim right at Lux. Back at the base, Faye takes care of a wounded Lux. The girl tells Lux that she was able to survive because he kept his promise and confesses she loves him. Some days later, back at the academy, the girls made a feast for Lux's recovery. Relief comes to join and explains that she was scolded because they explored the ruins without permission. Still, she explains that the punishment wasn't big, as people in the capital are busy with the preparations for the National Foundation Festival. Lisha tries to invite Lux on a date for the festival, but Chronicle gets ahead of her. Soon, Celestia and Faye are involved in the date competition too. Riley proposes Lux could choose the 3 girls that work the hardest at the camp and to take them on a date. The boy seems uncomfortable but tries to pick. Lux walks through the town with Eri. She explains that the city is even more busy because that year there'll be dragon battles, an event where chosen fighters from each country will fight to test their abilities and gamble their right to explore the ruins. She tells Lux that he and the other knights are the chosen ones of Atismata. Eri asks Lux to stay still as he hasn't fully recovered yet and warns him about the escape of the killer dagger of the Empire, the first knight of the former emperor. She tells him that it is said she's looking for him, so he shouldn't get too distracted on his dates. The girls find him and make him change his clothes from the first date with Celestia. She explains that it is her first festival and Lux takes her to many fun places. At the end of the date, they say how much they admire each other, but Lux falls on top of Celestia after the girl fell due to a little intoxication with sake. The girls separate them as it is time for the next date. They make Lux change again and take him to a social party where he finds his next date, Chronicle. She asks him to dance and he accepts. He apologizes for not knowing what to do or how to properly dance, as he never went to one of those events. They dance and have fun until the sun sets. They watch it from a balcony as they talk. Chronicle explains that Alterize is at the party spying on them. She asks Lux to kiss her to make the lie more believable. He leans on her to fake kiss her, but the girl quickly steals a kiss from him, leaving him to go on his next date. The girls make Lux change again and he runs to Fee's encounter for their date. She takes Lux to a church and makes him lay on her lap. She thanks him for fighting for her and he's able to have a pleasant sleep. At night, Lux goes back to the academy. The fireworks are already illuminating the sky when Lisha calls his attention. The girl asks for Lux to become her personal knight, as after graduating her responsibilities will get bigger. He isn't sure because as the former prince he's now seen as a criminal. Lisha understands his worries and asks him to think about it. She tells him that during the last day of the festival she'll contact her nation. and she'll like to introduce him, so he needs to answer by then. Lux watches Lisha leave, and a black-haired woman watches him from the rooftop of the Colosseum. The next day, Eri and Lux are at the bell tower, talking about the dragon battles. Eri asks him to be careful as Fugal, Haze, and the Dagger of the Empire are on the loose. A black-haired woman interrupts. She introduces herself as Kirihime Yoruka, the Dragon Knight at the orders of the former Emperor. She approaches Lux seductively, explaining that she wants to serve him. Scolded by his sister, he tells her to wait until he has an order, and the girl leaves. That night, Yoruka tries to share the bathroom with Lux, making him scream and attract the girls to his rescue. After calming all of them and explaining once again that he's not a... Lux takes Yoruka to walk and talk. He asks her why did she want to serve him. He understands that she had a contract with his father, but he's long gone. In response, Yoruka asks Lux how long he plans to keep lying to the girls before he destroys the kingdom. Lux doesn't understand, but the girl says it's Oak. She only wants Lux to promise that one day he'll bring Arcadia's empire to its former glory. He explains that he won't do such thing. Suddenly, Celestia attacks Yoruka, and all the girls appear to back her up on their dragons. Yoruka shows the ability of her dragon to control the other dragons she touches and asks Lux again. His response doesn't change, and he tells him she hopes to see him again before disappearing using a camouflage ability. Inside of what looks like a ruin, Haze, Senya, and Yoruka are told by another automata that a process is ready. Yoruka leaves without saying a word. Senya asks Haze if they can trust her. Haze, who is in the middle of the altar with a white ball, explains nods. Eri and Lux are taken to the conference room of the castle. They are informed that there's an insurgent group. Said group is led by Ragri Foles. They will attack right after the dragon's battles. To do so, they have around 100 Abyss hidden in the forgotten little towns of the country. The nobles want him to take the Abyss army down by himself and to win the dragon battle too. Eri is upset. That's too much responsibility. The ministry leading the meeting offers Lux the opportunity to take all the charges he, Eri, and Ruli have down if he succeeds. Lux calms his worried sister and accepts. On the chariot back to the academy, Eri asks Lux why he didn't tell them about the limited amount of time in which he can use Bahamut. She feels upset because, although she went to the meeting, she couldn't protect Lux. He understands the frustration of his sister, so he covers her with a blanket and a loving gesture, and she rests on his shoulder for the rest of the trip. In the workshop, Lux asks for Lisha to make upgrades to his wyvern, the dragon he'll use at the battles. She accepts and leaves, saying she'll do the best she can. From the corner of his eye, Lux sees Yoruka spying on him. He follows her, and they go to one of the sides of the fort that surrounds the school to talk. Yoruka asks Lux if he would fight against the king that night, but he ignores her question, and instead asks her why she is still loyal to the contract she had with his father. She explains that it is to honor her dead brother, as she always had the ability to recognize the thirst for blood from anyone and kill that person. She tells Lux that her father died out of solitude, causing her and her brother to inherit the country. Her brother was a kind and fair person who took care of her and the people until the day the Empire destroyed her country. Haru asks if his father took her brother as a hostage to manipulate her. She explains that her brother was murdered long ago, and it's for her loyalty to him that she still honors the contract. She asks Lux what he plans to do with the kingdom, and he tells her he can't do what she wants. Before he could keep explaining himself, Yoruka simply says it's a shame that the prince became her enemy. She leaves as she asks for Lux to take care the next day during the battles. The next day, the battles tournament that lasts 2 days takes place on the Colosseum of the Academy. The first day is individual battles. The second day, it's team battles based on the combined points with your team. During the first battles, the only ones who won were Kralsifer, Phi, and Celestia. Lisha and Lux still had to fight. The girl approached the arena just to see the end of Lux's fight. Lux wins the fight, and the girls notice that he seemed to really be pushing to win this time. Outside the Colosseum, Eri follows Lux, and they say goodbye before he goes to take down the Abyss. He asks for her to inform the girls about everything if he doesn't come back before tomorrow's fight. During Lisha's fight, something happened and the girl lost control over her dragon, attacking the crowd of civilians. After they're able to stop her, some soldiers ask for Lisha to follow them, but the girl refuses, trying to explain that it wasn't her fault. Kralsifer calms her down and tells her to obey, as they yet don't know what happened. Overflying the outside of the citadel, Lux finds a cave with a sparkling thing inside. He lands to inspect it, but is immediately attacked by Senya. He asks if she is the one that brought the Abyss, but she plays the flute and the monsters start following Lux. He flies, taking the Abyss to a point where they are ambushed by dragon knights. He lands on the little fortress, and one of the 4 nobles tells him to rest a little. Lisha rests in a dungeon, and the rest of the girls are informed by Eri about Lux's mission. The girls want to go help Lux, but Eri explains that winning the dragon battles is an important part of the deal too. they figure that they'll deal with the tournament and Lisha themselves, trusting in Lux. They deduce that the malfunctions of Tiamat are Yoruka's fault, as her dragon has the ability to control others, so now their mission is to capture Yoruka and rescue Lisha. Lux is resting when he hears an explosion. He goes to the patio of the fortress where he finds only one survivor. The soldier explains that right after they ended all of the Abyss, the insurgent army appeared. Understanding that this was their plan the whole time, Lux doesn't have any other option than fighting. He is confronted again by Regreed. Back in the academy, the girls are informed about the tournament being suspended due to an emergency. They understand that Lux is in danger. As they fight, Regreed warns Lux about a bigger threat approaching the kingdom. Lux hears the footsteps of the creature in the distance. He looks at a gigantic monster approaching slowly. Regreed explains that that's the gigantic warrior of the fifth ruin. Outnumbered, Lux takes Bahamut's sword. Lux runs away from Regreed. They talk as they fight, and Regreed explains that he's aware of Bahamut's limit. Thinking that he has managed to take the dragon to its limit, Regreed attacks Lux, taking an arm of the dragon down, except that's just a wyvern with Bahamut's armor. Lux takes out the actual Bahamut and starts to fight again. At the academy, Arya and Noct watch the giant walk towards the kingdom. Lux contacts his sister through the intercom and she tells him about Lisha. In the dungeons, Lisha is visited by Sanya, who shows her the fifth ruin through a window. The monster is being driven by Hayes and the automata, who refers to her as creator. Sanya asks Lisha to formally give the country to them, but the girl refuses, trusting that Lux will come to save her. Sanya says that Lisha has a nice show on her stomach and sends 2 soldiers to undress the girl for her. Before they could reach the queen, Lux breaks the wall of the cell, making the soldiers and Sanya run away. Lisa cries as she explains to Lux that she's a failure as a queen and dragon knight. Lux grabs Tiamat's sword and gives it to Lisha, saying that he needs her by his side. The girl accepts and holds his hand. Thai and Chrolsifer start the attack towards the monster. Soon Lisha and Lux join them. Hayes makes Lisha feel insecure about her abilities, but Lux holds her hand and tells her that they'll take her down together. They combine their dragon's abilities, considerably damaging the monster. At that moment, Faye uses her cables to hold the arm of the monster and Chrolsifer her canyon to freeze it to the floor. Lux asks for Faye and Chrolsifer to take care of the Abyss and insurgents that are in the Citadel. He and Lisha will take care of the gigantic warrior. Lisha is telling Lux how confident she feels around him when they are attacked by Hayes and her dragon suit, Minhog. The single attack was able to cut the city in half. While Faye and Chrolsifer fight the Abyss and traitors, Celestia confronts Sanya, deciding to finally put an end to it. Lisha fights against Hayes on her own, while Lux is off to look for an entrance to the gigantic warrior. On a field of flowers inside of the ruin, Lux finds Yoruka. He lands to fight against her, as he confesses he wants to save her. He asks who killed her brother, and she explains that after the attack of the Empire, the officials put the blame on him and cut his head to offer it to the Empire. Yoruka explains that as her brother didn't get to rule, her destiny was to be a slave of the Empire for the rest of her days. Lux tries to tell her that she's on the wrong, but Yoruka starts the fight. Lux is able to take her down when he mentions her brother and explains to the girl that he destroyed the Empire to save it from itself. Suddenly, the earth starts to shake. The automata inside the monster activates the final attack, aiming to blow the royal capital. Before the time is up, Yoruka cuts the white ball in half, deactivating the ruin. Hayes loses it and attacks Lisha mercilessly, breaking Tiamat. As the girl falls, Lux defeats Hayes and catches Lisha to take her to safety. Sometime later, Lisha gives a speech in front of the people where she introduces Lux as her personal knight. She asks for the people to judge them in order to make them stronger, as her kingdom won't be doomed by destiny's design. The crowd claps and yells, celebrating their queen and first knight. During the celebration ball, Lux is complimenting Lisha when he sees Feudal on the crowd. Sword in hand, Lux swears to protect the academy and the kingdom. Feudal smiles and leaves the party in silence. Lisha is trying to confess to Lux when the rest of the girls and Yoruka interrupt. Yoruka swears loyalty to Lux, and fed up, Lisha points at him with the sword, ordering him to confess who he really loves.